In January 2015, Malaysia was hit by severe flooding. Tzu Chi volunteers quickly mobilized to give out aid supplies and cash cards to those affected. A Cash for Work program was also launched to invite the locals to clean up their own homes. The volunteers also helped build temporary houses for those affected. Before the end of Ramadan, people were able to move into their new homes. In January 2010, a 7-magnitude earthquake caused massive devastation in Haiti. In the immediate aftermath, Tzu Chi volunteers went to give out aid and also organize a Food for Work program to recruit quake survivors to clean up the disaster areas. Over the past 5 years, Tzu Chi volunteers have carried out various aid projects in Haiti. Inspired by their love, many locals have become Tzu Chi volunteers. In 2015, our kindergarten, which was the 4th school that Tzu Chi helped rebuild in Haiti, was inaugurated.
We wish we can see more children accept receiving education.
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you so much, Tzu Chi. NINJH. Bye-bye.
In February, a passenger plane carrying many Chinese tourists crashed into a river in Taipei. As rescue teams conducted search efforts in the cold, Tzu Chi volunteers were also there providing rescuers with hot meals and blankets to keep them warm. To help the victims' families in China get to Taiwan as soon as possible, Tzu Chi volunteers even pleaded with other passengers to yield their seats to the anxious families.
你的笑是我的期盼，愿你永远都平安。生命中有无数波澜阻碍人生情路，有我陪伴。
In 2014, the Ebola outbreak erupted in West Africa, with Sierra Leone being the worst hit. In March 2015, members from Healy International Relief Foundation in the U.S. came to Taiwan to sign an MOU with Tzu Chi to help Sierra Leone together.
Is the intrinsic compassion and goodness that both of our foundations feel exist in every person.
Tzu Chi volunteers quickly prepared aid supplies to be shipped to Sierra Leone.
We're very happy for all the brothers who showed up here today and all those who have been supporting us. Thank you very much.
Namibia 启程咯。
In 2015, Tzu Chi volunteers went to Namibia for the first time. Altogether, Tzu Chi now serves 7 countries in Africa.
We are one family.
Follow 我们要去佛展了。When we have the love in our heart, somebody need help, we must give in our hand.
In South Africa, the volunteers went to several towns to share Tzu Chi values and bring aid to the needy. In Lesotho, a volunteer encouraged the locals to give. In Zimbabwe, feeling for those who had to walk a long way to fetch water every day, Tzu Chi volunteers dug wells in several local communities.
Given us water, so it's my tabasa.
In Mozambique, inspired by Tzu Chi volunteers, many people saved up coins and pooled their savings to help those worse off than them. In Swaziland, Tzu Chi volunteers visited the poor and brought rice to them. Although the road was rugged and slippery, the volunteers pressed on resolutely. Wherever Tzu Chi volunteers in Africa go to serve, they listen to Dharma Master Zheng Yan's teachings every morning. They also regularly hold gatherings to share experiences.
闪亮的黑珍珠一粒粒都在发光发亮的付出。
The love in their hearts has brought light to the dark corners of Africa. In April, overseas Tzu Chi volunteers gathered in Taiwan for an annual meeting. All of them vowed to hold on to their convictions. On April 25th, a 7.8 magnitude earthquake struck Nepal, killing more than 8,000 people. The following day, Tzu Chi members quickly planned their relief effort, and Tzu Chi hospitals also prepared medical supplies to be sent to Nepal. On April 27th, Tzu Chi's relief team left for Nepal. Upon arrival, they started surveying disaster areas and visiting quake survivors. After receiving permission to practice medicine in Nepal, Tzu Chi doctors began to provide medical services on April 30th. At the same time, Tzu Chi members in Taiwan were busily preparing aid supplies for Nepal. In Nepal, Tzu Chi doctors not only performed surgery for the injured, but also helped deliver a pair of twins.
You and our doctor, so I really want to thank you.
Tzu Chi volunteers in 38 countries and regions took to the streets to fundraise for Nepal.
好，感恩，祝福你。
送爱到尼泊尔，谢谢你。
在艰难中激发人力，在繁琐中学习耐心。妈妈尼泊。在复杂中欣赏有。
In May, Tzu Chi held an aid distribution for quake survivors in Nepal. Many young local people were inspired to volunteer with Tzu Chi.
We are Tzu Chi volunteers.
Moved by what Tzu Chi has done, even Nepali entrepreneurs pitched in to help with Tzu Chi's relief effort.
Tzu Chi is really doing a great job for earthquake victims in Nepal.
Apart from helping the quake survivors, the volunteers also visited housing communities Tzu Chi built in Nepal over 20 years ago. In 1993, Nepal was hit by severe flooding. Within 2 years, Tzu Chi built 4 housing communities for flood survivors. To thank Tzu Chi, the government erected a commemorative stele at the entrance to each housing community. Over the years, the stele has been covered in cracks, but it still stands tall, bearing witness to a story of love. Tzu Chi volunteers also invited Nepali doctors to join Tzu Chi's medical association, held a gathering to share Tzu Chi's values with local teachers, and built temporary housing and classrooms for the locals.
I feel very happy.
At a prayer service, the volunteers invited everyone to pray together for Nepal. In May, Tzu Chi turned 49 years old. To celebrate Buddha Day, Mother's Day, and Tzu Chi Day, Tzu Chi volunteers held Buddha Day ceremonies in 38 countries and regions around the world, including Taiwan, Malaysia, Nepal, South Africa. Lesotho. Mozambique. Indonesia. And the Philippines. In May, Tzu Chi Indonesia broke ground for a Tzu Chi hospital in Jakarta. It will be Tzu Chi's first hospital overseas and also Indonesia's first hospital equipped with bone marrow transplant facilities. For years, the volunteers in Indonesia have been promoting the practice of saving a little every day to help the needy, and their efforts have received a warm response from many people. In June, a powder explosion occurred at a water park in New Taipei City, Taiwan. Around 500 people were injured, with over 200 of them suffering severe burns. It was the deadliest accident in Taiwan since the massive earthquake in 1999. Learning of the disaster, Tzu Chi volunteers rushed to the site to provide aid. The next day, Tzu Chi volunteers in Taipei had a video conference with Dharma Master Zhengyan for her advice on their relief work. For over a month, they went to hospitals to bring supplies and meals to the families of the injured and give them emotional support. Tzu Chi volunteers even helped a farmer harvest his grapes so he could look after his son, who was also injured in the explosion.
对他很有感，他都一直安慰我们这些师兄师姐们帮忙，所以我才有办法在这边安心的照顾我的小孩。
Tzu Chi volunteers even bought the grapes and delivered them to hospitals caring for the injured to thank medical personnel for their hard work. Prayer events were held across Taiwan to pray for the injured.
努力，不要放弃，这样。
Under loving care, many of the injured were able to take their first step on the journey to recovery.
日后他可能没办法像大家这么辛苦的所谓的做这个复健，但你们的复健会带给你们日后的一个所谓的新的人生。
你们的祝福，你们的无心爱，就算是一句话，在我们心中。 就像一只一只的萤火，就像它就是引导着我们未来的道路。
After the incident, Tzu Chi quickly developed new pressure garments that are breathable and feel cool to help reduce burn patients' discomfort.
不要放弃丝毫的希望，
我们一起加油。
我努力的走了过来，我相信你也可以。
In July, Tzu Chi volunteers in Malaysia presented a musical adaptation of the Water Repentance text. 1 year leading up to the presentation, the volunteers gathered regularly to practice together. Everyone seized time to practice.
痛了，腿肌都红了。
睡觉前、睡醒、厕所、在车上、你堵车，就是肯定是这个了。
In 3 days, the volunteers staged 6 presentations. In the Philippines, temporary houses Tzu Chi built for Typhoon Haiyan survivors in Palo were completed.
Sobra-sobra, syempre, kasi mayroon na akong bahay, tapos dito kami magkakatipon-tipon ng mga anak ko.
Tzu Chi also organized vocational training classes for the residents to learn a skill. In July, with the help of Tzu Chi volunteers, a suspension bridge in Palo, damaged by Typhoon Haiyan, was rebuilt and opened for use. In July, torrential rains led to severe flooding in Myanmar. To carry out relief, Tzu Chi volunteers even had to go into the disaster areas by boat. They worked with a temple to prepare hot meals, and also hired the locals to set up makeshift kitchens, cook hot meals, and deliver them to those affected by the flooding. Tzu Chi also gave out rice seeds to affected farmers. Those who'd received Tzu Chi's aid after Cyclone Nargis in 2008 also donated their rice seeds to help. A cycle of love has begun in Myanmar as more and more locals adopt the practice of saving a handful of rice from every meal to help the needy.
代表我们所有的师生全县的这个乡亲表达我们对自己的这个最高的感谢之意。谢谢。
In 2015, Tzu Chi signed agreements with the Ministry of Education and several counties in Taiwan to help rebuild schools that are too old and dangerous to use.
为偏远地区的花莲撒下教育爱心的种子。
In fact, this is not the first time that Tzu Chi helped rebuild schools in Taiwan. After a major earthquake hit Taiwan in 1999, Tzu Chi rebuilt 51 schools damaged by the quake.
每一个人都有那种想要对慈济表达感恩的心。感谢慈济！
恁会当鼓掌，会这两只手就会当做。 垃圾分类啦，对不对呢？
By 2015, Tzu Chi has been promoting recycling for 25 years. Over the years, Tzu Chi volunteers worldwide have spared no effort to protect the environment.
难行能行，要逆境上游。
上人讲台湾话我听不懂啊，要救地球，讲这么一句话我听懂。身体好，
日日拢无烦恼。 欢喜的环保站，
他若无做，手袅袅啊，会想弄回来就做。
用太多水就没水，可以 recycle， 鼻子也可以浇花。
Tzu Chi volunteers collect recyclables day and night and transport them by bicycle, tricycle, truck, or even gondola and boat. In August, Typhoon Sudalor hit Taiwan, causing severe devastation in a mountain village in northern Taiwan. Tzu Chi volunteers, young and old alike, immediately gathered together to help clean up the village. As heavy machinery could not fit into the village, Tzu Chi volunteers went in on foot. They cleaned out the mud, one bucket after another, and shoveled out debris from house to house. In 3 days, over 6,000 volunteers pitched in to help. Despite being covered in mud and sweat, everyone served willingly with a joyful heart. In August, massive explosions occurred at a chemicals warehouse in Tianjin, China. Tzu Chi volunteers quickly gave out emergency cash to workers who had to return to their hometown after they lost their jobs due to the incident. The volunteers also visited residents in the neighborhood to bring them care and comfort. In August, Zheng Dagong from China left for Hualien Tzu Chi Hospital in Taiwan. Zheng suffered from a neurological disorder that caused his muscles to twitch and jerk involuntarily. To say his own name, it took him several seconds. After having a deep brain stimulation electrode implant, he was able to start doing exercises and recovered gradually. Before he was discharged, the medical team celebrated his rebirth and gave him their well wishes.
感恩上人，感恩医生，感恩主祭。
我是郑大根。
In September, members of Tzu Chi International Medical Association, or TIMA, from 22 countries and regions gathered in Taiwan for their annual convention. This was the first time that TIMA members from Nepal took part in the convention.
We can continue our future work of Tzu Chi in Nepal.
All around the world, TIMA members serve selflessly.
A few minutes of our compassion could mean a lifetime alleviation of someone's suffering.
In Canada, Tzu Chi volunteers have often been invited to speak to new immigrants at their citizenship ceremonies.
Everything that you have to enrich Canada, bring it here and make Canada even better.
In October, a new Tzu Chi office in Northern California was opened for use.
With that power, with that strength, we can build anything.
In the U.S., volunteers have been carrying out various aid projects, such as giving out tuition aid.
I'd just like to thank the organization for giving my sister the scholarship and giving her the chance to go to college.
Providing food to the homeless, and bringing aid to those affected by disasters.
To the Grand Masters, I thank you for allowing Tzu Chi to be established in New Jersey.
In Italy, a municipality granted honorary citizenship to Tzu Chi, the only overseas group to receive the honor. In 2015, Tzu Chi volunteers went to Bosnia again to bring aid to those affected by flooding in 2014.
A da se neke od njih još nisu niti pojavile ovdje, a Tzu Chi dolazi drugi puta. I zato još jednom hvala.
Due to civil war, millions of Syrians have fled to other countries. In Germany, Tzu Chi volunteers invited tutors to teach Syrian refugees German. In Jordan, since 2011, Tzu Chi volunteers have been giving out aid to Syrian refugees and holding free clinics for them.
الشعور اللي يعني أنا فيه اللي هو صعب. أنا كنت أشتغل في سوريا ما أحتاج أيد.
In October, to help the Syrian refugees in Turkey, a team of Tzu Chi members from Taiwan flew to Istanbul to hold aid distributions for the Syrian people there. Before each distribution, the volunteers carefully packed the supplies and tidied up the venue to show respect for the refugees. At the distributions, the volunteers encouraged every aid recipient to give and share their supplies with those who were not on the list to receive aid. Apart from giving out aid, Tzu Chi volunteers in Turkey also worked with local officials and a Syrian professor to set up a school for Syrian children. As the Syrian professor said, there is a house that can hold millions or even billions of people. That house is called love. In Australia, Tzu Chi regularly gives out aid to the needy. In Malaysia, Tzu Chi works with the UN to provide refugees with free medical services. In Thailand, Tzu Chi holds a free clinic for refugees once every month. Before each clinic, the volunteers will arrange shuttle bus services to bring the refugees to the clinic.
This is wonderful. Looks like it's functioning very well.
The clinic is also supported by dozens of interpreters speaking 9 different languages.
Tzu Chi Buddhist Foundation, but this organization is not promoting any religion.
Taiwan helping to us is very good and thank you.
Saya ingin mengambil kesempatan untuk memperkenalkan biodata penerima Tzu Chi Dharma Master Cheng Yen, perseorangan yang telah menjumbangkan perkhidmatan yang cemerlang serta mempunyai taraf kedudukan yang tertinggi. Mereka yang dikurniakan darjah ini digelar Datin Sri.
Naresuan University of Thailand is honored to award Venerable Dhamma Master Cheng Yen.
ये संसार का प्रत्येक व्यक्तिलाई माया दाता शाह गरौँ